Hello and welcome to Writer Rant, author advice in 5 minutes or less, because I've got to get back to writing and so do you. So this week I'd like to talk a little bit about reviewing and specifically beta reading. So beta reading is kind of that part of writing process that you've already written a draft, you've already done a rewrite, and so you've fixed some of the plot holes that you realized when you were working through it the second time. And so now it's time to give it to somebody, a friend, family member, even some people online. If you're lucky, you can find people on Twitter or Facebook that will do beta reading for you or looking for stories to read. And so you can give them what you've written and you can say, hey, just give me any notes you have. And that's usually pretty good. A lot of times you'll find that they're not gonna. The people who are then reviewing these stories aren't necessarily going to get in a lot of detail. Sometimes you have an idea of, hey, this section is kind of rough. Tell me, is it really that bad or it's not that bad? But what I do is I kind of break it down to I have about 4 things that I have my beta readers look at when they're reviewing my work. And then that way I can kind of see, okay, is this something that I'm doing in my writing that's, it's annoying or awkward? Because sometimes, like in your head it sounds right, and on the paper it just doesn't come out quite right. So I have what I call the ABC plus of beta reading, and so the A, like I just said, it's awkward or annoying, right? If it's something that's just like, oh, if I'm using the phrase "of course" too many times, right, then it's like, okay, well, then I can go through and I can easily cut those. But somebody who has a fresh perspective, who's not as close to it as the writer is going to notice these kind of things where it's like, this doesn't quite read the way that the author intended, or the author's kind of repeating some stuff over and over again, those kind of things. Those are good to point out, especially from a fresh perspective of a beta reader. The next one is B. So B is for boring. And so a lot of that kind of has to do with exposition dumps. So there's going to be times where an author wants to get a ton of information out to the reader, and if the reader's lucky, it's not going to be in the first section. You don't want to have it right at the beginning. However, I have noticed a trend where essentially a writer will have a lot of big action right at the beginning, and then 2 or 3 chapters in, suddenly says, hey, now I can start my story, now I can dump all this exposition on you. So that can get very boring. And you'll want a beta reader to essentially tell you, like, hey, this is boring. Either, chop it up a little bit, rearrange it, remove it, those kind of things. That's important. And so the flip side of that is the C in the ABC Plus, and that is confusing. So especially in sci-fi and fantasy, you're going to have a lot of ideas that are new, that most people haven't really encountered. And those are the ideas that you really need to get across in a solid way, and sometimes you have plot twists where it's just like, oh hey, if you don't have enough foreshadowing, then suddenly people will be like flipping back and like, well, wait a minute, that something doesn't make sense here. So if you lose your reader at any point, if at any point they are confused by your writing, you'll want to know so that you can fix that by the time that you get to a more polished manuscript. At the very least, it should help get it to be a more polished manuscript. And so the plus of the APC plus of beta reading, that's everything that's good. That's everything that works, right? It's kind of hard to go through a beta reader feedback and see, oh yeah, I'm bored here, I'm confused here, this is annoying. I mean, that can really be a downer on a writer, but seeing those little bits like, hey, this works, that's really good. That'll keep an author kind of, okay, yes, some of this is not garbage, I can keep going. So, what about you? You writers out there, what do you do for beta reading? Do you use kind of the ABC Plus method? Do you have something else that you use? Let us know in the comments below. Sorry, I got a cold here. And if there's anything else that annoys you about beta reading, drop a comment below and maybe we'll get to it in a future episode. So thanks for watching this episode of Writer Rant. I'm Benjamin M. Weilert.